Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to make this beautiful Bubu Kaftan dress with basket weave. Please do not forget to like, share and subscribe. So I'll be drafting out on pattern paper first before transferring to my fabric. Because of the basket weave, we are going to be making the weave on the pattern paper. So I have my starting lines here. So I'm going to be imputing my vertical measurements now. From the top line, I placed my sleeve opening, which is 12 inches. Then I placed the length of my dress. The length of the dress I'm working with here is 58 inches. So I marked 58 inches there. Then I extended my lines. The next thing I did was to place the sleeve length. So I measured from the center of the neckline to where the sleeve is going to stop. So it's 23 inches for my client. So what I did was to place 23 inches on the shoulder line. Another way you can do this is to place half of your shoulder measurements. Then from that point, you place your sleeve length. So the sleeve length here is 15 inches. The next thing I did was to place the neck width, which is 4 inches. And the back neck depth is 1.5 inches. Since I'm going to be cutting both front and back with the same pattern, I'm going to place my front neck width also, which is 4 inches. Then I'll connect the neckline with a curve. Connect the front also. Then the next thing I did was to place the same measurements I have on the shoulder line on the sleeve opening line also, which is 23 inches. So I marked 23 inches there. And I connected the point with a straight line. On the chest line, I placed quarter of the hip circumference. Then I added 3 inches ease allowance. And I added 1 inch for my side seam allowance. I made use of the hip circumference because that is the widest circumference I'm working with. You can make use of your bust circumference if that is the widest part of your body. So the next thing I did was to place the same measurements I have on the chest line on the length of my dress. Then I connected the points all the way to the hemline with a straight ruler. Then I curved my armhole. I make a curve there into the straight line. So the next thing I'm going to work on now is the basket. So for the yoke part, I'm going to be maintaining the shoulder measurements as the width of my yoke. Then for the length, I marked 7.5 inches for the length of my yoke. You can choose to make your yoke to be like a square, but for mine, I just ruled a straight line halfway, like that. Then I completed the rest of the line with a curve. So I had to switch to my pencil here, so I'll be able to get a perfect curve. Then I highlighted it with a marker after getting the perfect curve I want. So that would be for the basket yoke on the neckline. Then for the one on the sleeve, what I did was to come in by 5 inches from the sleeve length, like that. This is depending on how much you want. So I came in by 5 inches for mine. So that will be for the one on the sleeve part. So for the one that will be on the down part also, what I did was to come up by 10 inches from the hemline. I came up by 10 inches from the hemline. And I connected the points with a straight line. You can make yours more depending on how much you want. So I just made an arrow at that point to indicate that I'll be adding half inches to that point after cutting off. Then I did the same thing to the sleeve part also. That will be all. What I'll do now is to cut out. So I cut out my yoke parts like that. I didn't cut out the neckline yet. I cut out the sides like that. I indicated the shoulder line there Then I cut out the basket parts of the sleeve also. I also indicate the hem line before cutting out the basket part of the hem. So I'll go ahead to cut my pattern out on fabric now. So this is the fabric I'm going to be working with. It's an Ankara fabric. What I did was to fold it into 2 equal halves, selvage to selvage. Then I further fold it into 4 like that, since I'll be cutting both front and back at once. I folded it in a way that the folded edge will be at the top because they won't be joining at the shoulder. So the shoulder here is on fold and we have the front and the back here, and that side is on fold. So I'm going to place my pattern paper on my fabric now. I pinned down my pattern paper to the fabric. While cutting, I'm going to leave 1/2 inch allowance around the neckline. On the sleeves also, I'm going to add 1/2 inch allowance to join. On the down part also, I'll leave 1/2 inch allowance there, and I'm going to cut out. So this is what I have after cutting out. Then I notched the shoulder point there. I notched the neckline also. I just want to get the midpoints. I notched the center point of the sleeve also. And the down part also, I notched the midpoint. So I'm going to set that aside and work on the basket part. So for my basket, what I did was to transfer my pattern. This is the one on the down part. What I did was to cut this on fold. So I went ahead to cut it on a new pattern paper and it was cut on fold. 2 pieces. One will be serving as the front and the other will be serving as the back. And it was cut on fold. And I added 1/2 inch allowance to the upper part for joining to the main dress. And this is the one for the sleeve. What I did was to cut 2 pieces for my sleeve also. I added 1/2 inch allowance to the part that I'm going to join to the rest of the body. And I cut the shoulder point on fold. I cut 2 pieces for both sleeves. I'm going to set that aside and I'll cut out the yoke part also. Then from my yoke, what I did was to get a piece of paper and I fold it into 2 equal halves. Then I folded it again into 4. So I have 4 folds there, just like you are folding for your flare. Then I placed my pattern on it. With this, I have the front and the back there, and the shoulder is on fold. So I'm going to pin that down. Then I'll be cutting out the back neckline first, before cutting the front. So I didn't cut directly on the line. I left 1/2 inch allowance around the neckline. Then I also cut out the length of my yoke like that. I added 1/2 inch allowance around the yoke to join to the main bodies. Then I open up my yoke like this so I can cut out the front neckline. So I left 1/2 inch allowance around the front neckline also. So this is what I have for my yoke. What I did next was to mark a straight line at the center of my back neckline and the front neckline. And I labeled it as the front and the back. I'm still going to cut out the back line later. Then I also wrote a straight line at the shoulder line also to indicate my shoulder line. So I will start making the lines for my basket. I'll be drawing the vertical lines first. So there will be 1 inch spacing between my baskets. So what I did was to divide what I have on my shoulders into 1 inch each. I did the same thing to the other side also. I marked 1 inch in between the lines. I used the line on my back as a guide and I marked 1 inch like that. 1 inch. I did that to the other side also. Then I draw my vertical lines. I extended the line towards the front also, just like that. You can make the spaces between yours to be 1.5 depending on what you want. My client does not want ours to be too opened. That is why I made use of 1 inch. Then we are going to draw the horizontal lines. So I used the shoulder line as a guide. I marked 1 inch downward like that. And I marked it towards the back also, 1 inch like that. Then I extended my horizontal line just like that. I did the same thing to the front also. I extended the lines just like that. So this is what I have after drawing out my lines. So I'm going to set that aside, and I'll do the same thing to the down part and to the yoke parts. I'm going to make my lines, making sure I have 1 inch spacing. I'm going to draw the vertical lines first, then the horizontal lines. I'll do that to both the front and to the back pattern. And I'll do the same thing to the sleeve also. I'll draw my vertical lines of 1 inch. Then I'll draw the horizontal lines also, 1 inch. So this is what I have after drawing my lines. To every part I'm going to have my basket. So I went ahead to cut strips of fabric. You can't tell how much you'll be needing. Just cut as much as possible. So I cut out the long strip of fabric. The width is about 1.5 inches and the length is about 45 inches. So I'm going to explain to you how you are going to go about it, how you are going to sew this to your pattern paper. So we'll be starting with the yoke. I opened up my pattern and I'll get my strip and I'll fold it in on both sides as tiny as possible. I'll fold it in at both ends like that, and I'll further fold it like this. Then I'm going to be placing it on my pattern paper. I'm going to be sewing the vertical lines first before the horizontal line. So I'll place them on my vertical lines. I'll fill it up on the vertical lines before the horizontal lines. So I'll place that on my pattern like that. And I'll stitch on both sides of the fold. Going to place it like that. And I'm going to stitch on both sides. I'll do that to all the vertical lines before stitching the horizontal lines. So this is what I have after I was done fixing up my lines on the yoke. So what I'll do now is to cut through the back like that, the back line. I'm going to open that up. Then I'm going to bind the opening with my strip of fabric. I'm going to bind that like that. I'm going to place the opening in between the strip of fabric like that, and I'll make a top stitch on that point. I'll do that to the second side also. And for the neckline, I cut a strip of fabric in a bias form, just like you're cutting for your bias, so that it can lay very well on the neckline. So I'm going to stitch that round the neckline, just like you're sewing with your bias. So this is what I have after doing all that. So I'm going to be fixing a buttonhole there and a button. So I'm going to do the same thing to every other part of the basket. I'll do that to both sleeves and to the down part also. Vertical lines first, then the horizontal lines. So this is what I have after I was done. As you can see, I bind the sides that I won't be fixing to the body. I bind it. I did the same thing to the down part also. Trust me, it's not as easy as it looks. This took me days to complete, but you can do it also. So what I'll do next is to join them to the main bodies. So I'm going to be joining the yoke part first. I'm going to open up my bodies like that. Remember, I notched the points earlier when cutting. What I'll do is to match the points together on the shoulder line. I'll match the shoulder to shoulder, and I'll pin the yoke round the bodies like that. I'll pin it round, making sure I match the points correctly. Then I'll go ahead and stitch it round with 1/2 inch. I'll do the same thing to every other part of the basket. I'm going to stitch the sleeves with 1/2 inch, and the down part also. I'm going to match the points together, and I'll stitch with 1/2 inch allowance. This is what I have after stitching down my basket part to the main bodies. And I've fixed my buttonhole also. I'm going to be fixing my button to the other side. Next thing I'll do is to flip my dress to the wrong side, and I'll place them right side facing each other. Then I'm going to stitch the sides with 1 inch allowance. I'm going to stitch the other side also with 1 inch allowance. So this is it after I was done stitching the sides, as you can see. So the last thing I'm going to do now is to remove my pattern paper. So I'll remove the paper gently. You can also sprinkle some water on the pattern paper so it can come off easily. You can see. This is the final outcome of my Bubu Kaftan dress with basket weave. You can see how beautiful it looks like. And this is how it looks on the back. I went ahead to fix my button to the back also. I hope this video was helpful to you. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.